want to talk about commissioned armies in tournaments today. I've seen this topic come up more and more frequently, and I figured it was worth exploring a little bit. So, the premise of this discussion, so to speak, is should commissioned armies be allowed to win painting prizes in local tournaments? Or tournaments altogether. The dilemma being, you put countless hours into painting your army and then making it your own, and some other guy drops $2,000 to a pretentious French artiste to paint his mini for him, and he has a nicely painted army with like zero effort. So, where should we draw the line here when it comes to scoring and to prizes? And should a line be drawn, at all in this situation? And I think this is like a very fair question to have, and I also think that it needs to be looked at from like different perspectives. So obviously, the main thing being winning. I think it happens more in smaller events, like maybe game store level RTTs, where a commissioned army will win best painted out of, I don't know, 10, 12, maybe 20 people. But when it comes to very large event, I think it's very, very rare. Like I tried to think about like when is the last time that this happened, where a big event was won by somebody with a commissioned army. And in terms of painting, sorry, not winning the event itself, but winning the painting prize with a commissioned army. And this is very, very rare. You'd think, for example, Adepticon has a very high standard. A lot of people have commissioned armies at Adepticon, and yet there's always people that go solely for almost not necessarily solely, but go mainly to showcase their army. They have like beautiful armies. Recent years, Dom won. I don't think if he won, but he places real high with his Space Marines, like gray and orange Space Marines. You've probably seen them around. They're super pretty. Matt Aaron scored really high. I don't know if he won with an bluish turquoise sea green type of Dead Guard army with a big lava board display, and usually some with a commissioned army it's really pretty. Some people put shit out there, or some people do like me and they do armies in a week for somebody else, but I mean if you paid the big bucks for it, even a commissioned painter that's like very skilled, usually for this kind of the kind of money that you end up paying, you don't get the super high level that a dedicated amateur will put into his or hers army, like to play with, like converting every mini, building a super intricate display board. At some point, every commission will be like held to like a kind of a lower standard, but most likely like a price chart or whatever from like how much money they're getting into this, and then like no commission studio is putting down like a year worth of work into an army. So realistically, these bigger events, they're rarely won by commissioned armies. The last I can think of is France at the WTC. They had, I think, two of their 8 armies that were provided by painting studios, and I believe they won that year, and maybe they even finished second. So it's a really, in terms of the larger one. But then I agree that like at small RTTs, like one day events at stores, it is probably more frequent where you don't have this, I've put 3 months of work into my army for this one event type of people, and they're the commissioned painting armies like standard is probably higher than the everyday model or the everyday army that you put up. That being said, if it's a tournament, if it matters to you winning the painting prize, I mean, I think you can put that effort and you definitely can win. Where I think this is way more interesting is in terms of like points And by points, I mean, getting your own little paint score. Because we've talked about this in another video where, you go to a tournament, you'll be awarded a painting, there's a painting rubric and you'll be awarded points. And sometimes there's a thing called best overall or Renaissance man or something like that, which is battle points for winning games and painting points. And that gives you, then there's usually a prize around this. Some events overall is the highest. Some events it's like the second. This is your mileage may vary type thing. But it's usually there also just for your own thing. I want to see how I placed in the painting. If I don't win, how did I second, third, fourth, 12th, middle of the pack or anything, right? I want to see what my result is. And that's where I think it hurts a little bit, where you pour your heart and soul into this, and then Jack over there that has not painted a model in forever scores higher than you with his commissioned army. That's it hurts a little, it hurts the soul a little bit, but in the grand scheme of thing, I don't think it matters too much, because neither you nor Jack would have won the painting prize in this situation, whereas he would have scored higher than you, and it's insulting. But the Dom of this world, the Matt Aaron of this world, would have won the painting prize at the end. So it's just a matter of tallying up the losers essentially. But it's still, I say it like this in terms of a competition, but it's still kind of hurtful of yeah, congratulations, you paid good money for it, and then you scored higher than me. Which, yeah, this is really coming from a place of hate, because I've never seen anybody brag about the painting score of his commissioned army. I've met a lot of, I've painted armies for people, and I've also seen people with commissioned army, and I've never seen anybody brag about the quality of their commissioned army as if it was a big deal, A lot of the people that get their army commissioned is just really mostly for their opponent more than anything else. And then this brings me to my next point, where the hobby being so multifaceted, a lot of the people don't really care about painting, but it's still kind of mandatory for a lot, if not all, tournaments at this point to have a battle-ready army. So somebody that does not really care about painting, that person has no incentive of wasting their own time painting for something they don't really care about, and that you at the end get to enjoy more. And what I mean by this, we have a local guy here, Eric, is a buddy of mine. He's really good at playing the game. Eric, I've known him 20 plus years. He hates painting. He does it, and I've seen a couple of his armies that he put some effort into. He gets decent results, but he hates painting. His free time, he gets home from his 9 to 5 and whatever. He does not sit around and paint. He does not want to do that. But he likes to go to events, and he wants to have pretty army, or he does not want to lose by default because his army is garbage. Can't really fault him for that. So he gets his stuff commissioned. And the real winner here is everybody that is playing against Eric. Because Eric would play with his gray toy soldiers in a heartbeat. And he would play you with your gray toy soldiers in a heartbeat. He does not care. This is not that part of the hobby that's important to him. And yet he wants to, he chooses to have these beautifully painted miniatures to help his chances in tournaments. And the real winner is essentially his opponent, because he does not care. As long as he doesn't have to do it himself, he's pretty happy with this. And I see this kind of it's pretty easy to reverse this. Well, imagine a guy that only paints miniature, and then you go, you can't just paint it. You have to play it at least once. Some people are just happy to be painting minis in life. Why would you imagine if you have to buy every time you buy a box, you have to play it. I don't like playing. It's not fun. Well, you bought it, and the hobby is painting and playing. So you cannot just paint it beautifully and put it on a shelf. This is not how the hobby works. It's kind of reverse. Some people don't really care about painting. I say this all the time. I hate list building I don't enjoy that part of the hobby. I know just enough about list building to know that I'm bad at it. So I look for a list, or I ask my friends for a list, and then I show up to a tournament with what they told me to run, and maybe I change a thing or two in it because I don't like some models. Usually that's what I do. But I get no joy out of this part of the hobby. So, I choose not to do it. Simple as that. And that's how really I see this more in a practical sense of like, this lets me enjoy tournaments, or in this case, it lets Eric or Jack enjoy tournaments without, the part of the hobby that they enjoy, without having to suffer. And then I guess it comes down to like organization, right? For smaller events, I think it's more up to the tournament organizer to kind of make it like the kind of their mission statement, or have like a paragraph of like, what line do they draw in the sand? How does it impact? Because for me, I'm not really interested in rewarding these people with like a painting prize, but I don't want to penalize them from having, they're bringing a beautiful army. Like, you should not be penalized for bringing a beautiful army to a tournament, because the whole event is, slightly better because of it. But I also understand how frustrating it is for somebody that did put the time and effort to be beaten by somebody that just dropped money. So I agree. It's like it's a tough line. I honestly don't believe it's a big deal. I think people get to enjoy the parts of the hobby that they care about. And I say this, but again, I think the largest event I've ever ran was 48, and never happened that a commissioned army was like in the, like, I don't even think podium like level of painting ever. So I think it's really fringe cases. Like, maybe you get like to this one place where that one guy gets all of his stuff painted. It's like super beautiful, and it's really frustrating. And if that happens, I think it's the TO. It falls to the TO's responsibility to kind of address this, to make sure the community is happy about how this is being handled. And I think you should bring up to the TO rather than just like flame on the internet. Like, if nobody ever told me anything about this, I would not care, and I would not like realize that this was like an issue for people. So, if you see something, say something type deal. But I think it's an interesting take, Commissioned armies into tournaments. Should there be a line? I don't know. You guys tell me what you think.